Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. And anytime you can email the program, MessiahHour@gmail.com, or the station IsraelSportsNewsRadio@gmail.com. With the Voice of Israel going out of business, and apparently a Route 7 TLV1 on the way out as well, what is the latest for Ger community as far as listening to programs they like on the radio? On the line to discuss this, fresh back from his trip to Texas, the man who is the co-author of the book, The World of the Ger, Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi Katz, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure as always.
Yes, indeed. So tell us, what did you learn when you were in Texas? Did you find that the Ger community was bigger than you thought or the same as you thought?
So the big idea that I walked away with, and I've already said this on a couple different venues and different lectures that I've done, and I'm going to keep really hitting this message probably the rest of my life, because it was one of those profound moments that it defined the whole trip. It defined my work as a rabbi in the field of Ger Noahide, the book that we did. This is really everything. Here we go. The idea is, when I got to, my trip took me to Houston, Texas first. And obviously in America, I wanted to buy some products. The plane ride is long, so I needed an energy bank for my devices. Because in Israel, as you know, Ari, we can't get the good stuff here. So Best Buy is, well, before we get to Best Buy, I mean, a trucker stop in Texas sells more product than all of Israel combined. When it comes to...
Yeah, I can believe that.
I mean, I thought Walmart's like already an overload. So, in Israel, you got to really search for the things that you want and probably buy from Amazon. So we went to Best Buy, and I was kind of looking forward to going to Best Buy. And I needed to buy a computer. And so we went in there. And, I haven't been to Best Buy probably in 15 years, but I do remember that their colors are blue and yellow. So, point is, it was familiar. It wasn't like, totally foreign territory. Because I really haven't been back to America since I came to Israel 15 years ago. Got the kid, the 19-year-old kid who's working there, and my little fictitious story, how I tell over this episode, we call him Dirk the Goy, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. And you're gonna see what is a goy under these terms. It's just kind of robotic, bank teller Jane, right? Grocery girl Linda. It's Ari Lewis, boring guy on the subway, right? I mean, you're not performing on the subway. Rabbi David Katz, just guy on Midrachov and Sfat, We all have that. Right. We're all the goy when it comes to that in kind of descriptive, metaphoric sense. And so Dirk the Goy is, 19. I mean, this is all kind of not true, but I'm painting the picture as I saw it in my metaphor. He's a 19-year-old kid. He works at Best Buy. He probably went to the local university. And he plays Dungeons and Dragons on Tuesday night. Maybe he goes out to with his friends Friday. He's a regular guy. He's just a kid. He works at Best Buy. What do you want from him? And I said, here's my price bracket for a computer, and he was good, right? No harm, no foul with Dirk the Goy. And let's say the whole world has this view. Now, when you get into Torah and Judaism, number one, the from Jew sticks out, right? You would not call David Katz in Houston, Texas, in the Best Buy, Dirk the Goy. I've got my beard, yarmulke tzitzis, right? There's no way they're going to call me a Goy, even though I might act like one. The bottom line is everyone knows I'm a Jew. So the Jewish people are given a God-given identity and a God-given culture that we do have an identity, but really more in the eyes of the nations. Because the biggest problem that the Jewish people have, as it says in the laws of Passover, we can become a Nachri as well, which is a type of non-Jew, right? You can, if you go against the entire Torah and deny it, you actually have the halachic status of a Nachri. You cannot eat the Korban Pesach, the Passover offering. Now, if you do tshuva and repent and realize that your place is a Jew, right? In terms of male-female, it's like Caitlyn Jenner, right? She can always go back to realizing it's a he. So in Judaism, you need to be a Jew. Dirk the Goy, we call that in idiomatic thinking, he has not found his calling yet. And that's not a crime, right? The Jew who is a Kiddush Hashem for the sake of heaven, you can say he has found his calling, and he has a little bit of help by God by, declaring him a Jew, by birthright. That's what it is to be a light to the nations. It's not a better thing, per se. It's a God-given identity and culture, really point blank. Now, you'll say what the nations don't? Actually, the nations do, and that's called Ger. But the thing is it's on the Jewish mission to teach that. Once upon a time, it was universal. It got lost in exile, and the Ger became a casualty of war. Now, what if you're a natural-born prophet? You're also lost to exile. What if you are the kings of House of David? That's also exile. Women are in exile because it's a what do we call that word? Whatever it's called. How do you say that word? Patriarchal culture. So a lot of things that are great are in exile. Why are the 10 tribes in exile and 2 tribes remain? Such is fate. Why is America first world and other countries are not? Okay, God has his cheshbon. What can you do? So I have the luxury of being the beard yarmulke tzitzis guy because God made me a Jew, and Dirk the Goy is a casualty of war, of exile. So that's my job then, to be a light to nations and go parade Ger around the globe, so to speak. So now that we're caught up to speed, Dirk the Goy is a nice kid, and that's where it ends, right? Dirk the Goy is not going to ask me where I'm from because it's obvious I'm not from around here, right? He's not interested, and that's fine. I'm not interested in hearing about Dungeons and Dragons either. So no harm, no foul. I got my computer, and it was a nice day with Dirk the Goy. But then I wanted a new MP3 player because Apple and the EU has they kill the volume control in the devices. So in America, they don't have this little law in effect. And I figure if I'm in Best Buy, I might as well stock up. And I go and I meet who's called John the Ger. His name was literally John, and he's different. He's wearing the white shirt, not the blue shirt. I'm like, okay. He's got the thick-rimmed glasses. He's an interesting guy. Something's going on with this guy. And he says, I told him I want an MP3 player. And he's like, wait a minute, you want the good sound? You want this, the ding, the ding, the ding. And I'm like, whoa, John the Ger knows his stuff. And so part of my trip, I realized there are these people out there. I call them the Kohanim of the world's wisdom. They're the ones that they kind of operate in the pathways of wisdom. The guy, I used to have a neighbor who was a mechanic, and he was the kind of guy that could put a burglar alarm system in your car, just kind of like hot wiring it, because he knew how to do that stuff. He's the kind of guy that didn't use batteries for his kids' toys. He had a generator in his house. There's all these there's this guy, he exists, and he's called the Ger. It's the chiropractor that really knows the wisdom of how to fix your back. I mean, we all know this kind of person. That's the Ger. And so John's talking to me about, this and that. And I told him, he says, where are you from? I said, I'm from Israel. I'm here doing lectures for 2 weeks. And he says, why don't you come on back with me and I'll give you your first religious experience. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty wild. And he was right. The format of the music and the type of player. And John was a great guy. I did buy the device. It was very expensive, but the point is, he made a very simple analogy. Do you want an iPod of 10,000 songs? Because the jogger, who's out jogging wants a list of 10,000 songs for his daily jog. But if you're not a jogger and you simply want to listen to like a vinyl record like you used to do, then you need to buy the vinyl type machine. So this little player is, for people that like quality music. You don't put 10,000 songs on it. You might, put 60 songs on it. And the whole trip of Texas was those kinds of people. And the boiling point was I went to another Best Buy in Waco, just because I had to get another device for the computer at that time, further into the trip. And I was with a very strong personality who was a Ger. And I saw the metaphor that when the Ger walks in, it's like the Goyim flee, like a lion entering the room, and the gazelles flee. Now that's the animal soul in Revelation. What was it? What was the metaphor really? This guy is God-fearing. I mean, I know that. He's a friend of mine. And imagine the difference when you talk to somebody. I mean, this guy is probably 6 foot something, really strong guy, big beard. I mean, he really believes in the power, like of Elijah, the power of Hashem running the world. And Dirk the Goy is thinking about Dungeons and Dragons. Right? So if it were to come to the death, not to say that it would, but if it did, it's a mismatch. I mean, you literally have the God-fearing man, as the Gerim are called the God-fearers, and people that are plugged into Nintendo. So that kind of energy, they flee. And they don't really know why they're fleeing, just like a three-dimensional being is inconceivable to a two-dimensional being. What the goy doesn't realize is that he is a ger, and the mission of the ger is to bring out the ger in the goy. Meaning, stop being Dirk the goy, stop being robotic, and recognize God. That's what the ger does, and his allegiance is with the Jew. So when I walked in with my beard and yarmulke and tzitzis with Mike the ger, who's big, God-fearer, that's like Levi and Shimon taking out the Shem. That's really how it felt. And the whole idea is stop being a robot, find God, and we know that in secular terms. But the good news is there's a world of ger. And this is not some teaching that I've done. The teaching I've done is the most least relevant to this equation. There is a bria, a creation, and there are Jews in that creation. There are people who are steadfast and with diligence to remain robotic, but there is a large populace of ger. You may have called him once upon a time, a good Christian. He wasn't. There just wasn't any other alternative. And as they're leaving the church in record proportion, these are now called God-fearers. And they may have listened to the Christian Bible Belt TV show Sunday morning, but it's like when we were in high school, we listened to rock and roll because there was nothing else. But when you grow and you mature and you develop your interests, then you diversify yourself. And that's the ger today. They're ready for the real story, and there is a true ger universe. I see it. It's thriving, and it's ready really for its full redemption.
So I was mentioning the situation with radio in Israel, how a couple of these stations, one is already out, Voice of Israel, and Root Sheva is about to be out, TLV1's about to be out. And you mentioned off the air that back in the day in the United States, it's very common for the average Christian to wake up Sunday mornings and watch a preacher or pastor on television. He needed it, something he wanted it. And I want to know, how is the ger community going to fulfill that desire through media of Israel when there's media on its way out in this regard?
My good friend Rod Bryant, which I know you know him, and he's of the Light of the Nations on our Sheva, coincidentally enough. He picked me up at the airport, and we drove. He was my first stop in Texas, and he was listening to Rabbi Yossi Mizrahi on the radio. Now, as the good rabbi that I am,
former guest of my program, by the way,
and alongside Rabbi David Katz is also a guest, right? So
that's right. You're on a little more often than Rabbi Mizrahi, but
that was the point. That was the point I made with Rod. Is I see, the good critic in me saying, "Why are you listening to this?" But he not that I'm against Rabbi Mizrahi. It's just it's kind of like a jab. I think everybody throws a jab or two at him, but in a healthy way, I think. The message was, he said, again, it's like, I think I was more shocked that he was listening to a rabbi in his car all the time. And he said, look, what do we want to do? Listen to rock and roll on the radio? I'm driving around Houston. Houston's a massive city. I need to listen to something for the soul. Just, that's what we as ger do, so to speak, is the message I got from him. And I realized, man, yeah, he doesn't want to put in a Pearl Jam CD, right? The Jews, I think, do that. But he wants holy, kosher listening. And I think that, a lot of the people that my audience that listens to my material, a lot of them have listened to my stuff. One guy's a trucker, Jerry, you know who you are, and he listens to me on the road. And a lot of people have listened to me when they drive to work. In Israel, we forget about that culture. In Israel, you don't really drive around like that, not so often. But in America, it's not uncommon at all. And the point is that between the need and desire to listen to holy listening, soul listening, the preaching listening, so to speak, because Mizrahi is a preacher. Let's not be confused. That's what he's doing. He's preaching the wisdom of the sages. And that's why the non-Jews love it. And Moroccans, Judaism is very much like that. They're very much like Amnon Yitzchak for your Messiah hour type stuff. He's very much like, Mashiach is coming, doom and gloom, do tshuva, repent, in Hebrew, tshuva, chozer lakadosh baruch hu. So it's out there. We have it in us. We just kind of lost it. And on a side note, my good friend and study partner Jason Specht is, after our Abilene talk in Texas, is saying the problem is because we highlighted a problem, though, how do you, getting rid of Yeshu is one thing. And you see a lot of the outreach in Noahide-ism is to say, like, yeah, Jesus was not the guy of Isaiah. No, he wasn't. And we're bashing Christianity and Jesus in order to make a message of the prophets. And guess what? That's really not the message. Why do you focus so much on saying that Jesus is not in Isaiah? Why not just teach Isaiah? Right? Jesus didn't build the third temple, so it's not Jesus as the Messiah. Well, that's fine. Okay. But can we learn about the third temple? So a lot of the Ger, if not all of the Ger, they're done crusading and crucifying Jesus. Okay? We know it's not the truth. We know Christianity isn't it. We know that Judaism is teaching 7 go to heaven Noahide, and there's a whole wealth of Torah that is untapped, like oil underneath the surface or natural gas. And my message that I'm walking away with is, isn't it time that we, the internet is the tool of the Ger. That's they've only united because of things like Skype, Arod Sheva broadcast when Tamar Yona was there, the virtual yeshiva, and Mizrahi, even YouTube. The Ger world is like an old school, right? Not old soul, but old school. They don't really want to go to Hollywood to see the movie Noah to get their fix. It's like my brother. He went to see the Dead Sea Scrolls on exhibition in New York. And he actually believed that looking at that, he will be enlightened. And it's like, that doesn't work that way. Just go read the Torah, And the Gerim know that. They're an authentic community. Remember, they're like the Kohanim to wisdom. They are the 7 wisdoms of the world flow through them. And there's no wisdom in sitting in a theater with munching on popcorn watching the movie Noah, which is a bad impression of a Torah-based, story. They want the real McCoy. It's just that's who they are. They are the authentic, real people. The Dirk the Goy wants to go see Noah, and he'll say, I thought it was a great movie, and I thought the actor, Russell Crowe, did a great job. And that's not Ger. Ger is like, he wants to actually read the book and know. He's thinking there in the movie, hey, is this really accurate? Who was Noah? What's the story with his Shem? I remember Shem. Isn't Shem Melchizedek? Tzedek? And it's like everybody else is saying, I don't know. So he can't talk about it. He buries it inside. He's a secret God-fearer. With that said, there needs to be a platform of podcasts, internet-based radio, dishing out authentic Torah for the Ger world. And the Jews, by the way, will get into it too. That's the secret. Jews want it. They just don't know it. And the Ger are the ones asking the Jews, can you stop, either teaching only Jewish stuff, the classic Jewish stuff like Bava Kama, right? And the most Jewish things like gefilte fish or anti-Jesus Christianity. How about just the truth? Because you're the Jewish people. You have the truth. You have the Torah. So, like, for example, how about Isaiah 56? About the Shabbat and the Ger and the exiles and the end of days and the commentaries and what the sages say and what the wisdom is. And that's where it's going to go. The Ger world is waiting for the authentic Torah, and now is the time to do the radio shows and the podcast and get the books open the Jews have long collected dust on and start teaching authentic Torah to the nations because they're out there.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. My guest is Rabbi David Katz, and, of course, the email, messiahhour@gmail.com. So, Rabbi Katz, what goes on from here? What happens here? Because, as you talked about, there is this desire, this need for the Ger to get information. There's a whole world of the Ger. What do you think happens going forward? Again, as I mentioned, with Arut Sheva on its way out, Voice of Israel already on its way out. You
don't putz around. That's what you don't do. Right? Voice of Israel, like Ari said, down. Okay, Arod Sheva, you guys see it. What are they doing? They got rid of Tamar Yona. They're messing up the radio broadcasts. Right? It's not what it was. We all know what it was. The virtual yeshiva back in the late 2000s. Right? And when Arod Sheva was hot. And when all this message was first being brewed and the blog scene was popping. That's what we all want to go back to. We all loved it. Where do you think I started? On the blog scene. Virtual Yeshiva, Arod Sheva. I'm with you. We all started there. We all are a product of the 2000s. The Yeshiva movement really took off in the 2000s. We all came out of idolatry together. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. Right? Even though I may not have been a Christian, it was my world. I went to Centerville High School. In Texas, in Grandview, a friend came because he's a Ger. One of my best friends growing up, his name was Nick Talley. Imagine that. Rabbi David Katz, author of The World of the Ger, meaning the Ger movement, in Anita Jones's house, the widow of Vendel Jones, and then right, sitting across from me is the guy who I sat next to in math class when I was 15. Because he realized that he's a Ger. Nothing to do with me. It's just he understood he's a Ger. I mean, come on. It's profound. Absolutely profound. And so the time is now. Nick didn't wait. Nick is saying, like, hey, if David's here teaching Ger, and he wasn't coming for me. He wanted to hear what is Ger, what is the wisdom, and to meet the other 50 Gerim there. So all I can say is get your rabbis going. Get the podcast going. Don't wait. The iron is hot right now. It's just go. And I want to even make a little challenge. Ari Lewis, I'm going to do an ice bucket challenge for you.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought about this, and this is as corny as it gets, but I want to do it. You know, I gave a class last week about the translations of Divine Code and Lazer Brody translating Rabbi Shalom Arush. No harm, no foul to those guys. The villain that we painted was in the concept of translation, right? If you were to, I said some Hebrew words in this show right now with Ari. I mentioned gefilte fish. Imagine if you translated that, because our listeners don't know what gefilte fish is. So it's a small delicacy the Jewish people eat on Friday night. Ari, would they know what we're talking about?
Probably not. It's
No,
possible.
they wouldn't. They say,
Likely.
oh, they eat little fish. That's cute, like goldfish. No, it's gefilte fish. The point is you cannot translate everything. So, therefore, those works are they end up in the Noahide camp by the definition of poor translation, by the nature of reality and wisdom. Where our book is different is we didn't try to translate anything. We dug out the wisdom. And the con of that, meaning the pros and cons, the con side is it's very difficult to understand from a simple reading standpoint, because you have to be interested in wisdom in order to get wisdom, right? He who was wise, or how's it say? I'll make wise who was he who was already wise, so to speak. If you're not interested in learning and growing, then really Ger is not for you. I think the definition of Ger is growing, and Noahide is I've grown and I'm done. And that's what translation is. That's what Art Scroll is. I have grown to appreciate God. I'm done. Feed me. Whereas Ger is I'm not done growing. I want to learn how to eat. Right? So here's the challenge. I have made a practice of receiving the source material from the Ger, meaning they call me up on Skype or write to me, Rabbi Katz, Isaiah, I'm making this up, Isaiah 53:4 says, the stranger will return to you. Is that the Ger? I get those kind of messages every day. And I'll look it up and say, okay, Isaiah 53:4, stranger, what's it say in Hebrew? Oh, look at that. The Nilva Ger will return to Beit Yaakov. I'm making that up, but it's those kind of things. And it's like, wow. So what do the commentaries say? Oh, the Ger this, Ger that, Ger. It's like, wow, how do we not know this? So here's my challenge. In that instance, it would be translated as convert or stranger. The Ger noticed it, sensed something's funny, sent it to me, I found it, sourced it. It now becomes Ger doctrine, right? The Ger Masorah, the Ger tradition, and it'll end up being taught in my podcasts or videos. Here's the challenge. I challenge everybody out there, every Ger, start a point system by your own tally and identify Torah that you think may be mistranslated, and send it to your rabbi and say, you know, this piece here, it talks about this and this. Is this really what it's saying? Is there something I'm missing here in the translation? Have them look it up and see if it can get rectified. For example, in the Ramchal, Derech Hashem, when I was at Nativ, it said something along the lines of the tree of Abraham and the Israel at Sinai. Everybody else will have to convert to Judaism. Only it didn't say that. It said become a Ger. Right? So that's an example of where the translation was a bit skewed just by the circumstances of translation. The challenge is, let's finally redeem the Torah, create a podcast network, and a whole radio to the authentic Torah to the nations called Redeeming Torah. Give yourself a point system for self-satisfaction of bringing the Torah back. Challenge the translations and search for the wisdom and redeem, basically, truth, which is the essence of redemption.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. My guest is Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book The World of the Ger. I want to go back to Arutz Sheva because you talk about it's on its way out, and it was at one point very hot, a while ago. Probably when I was on there, that's when it was in its prime.
It was the hottest.
It was the hottest back then. But I want to know, why do you think it's not working out? Because as you talked about, there's this desire, this need for it. So why is, in your opinion, Arutz Sheva on its way out? I mean, I agree with you. I want to know that, and why do they not understand the importance of fulfilling the needs and desires of the Ger community?
Who cares about Dirk the Goy?
You think that's the answer? They don't care about Dirk the Goy.
That is the answer. There's only Dirk the Goy, and who cares about Dirk the Goy? What they've failed to acknowledge is, what about John the Ger and the fact that Dirk the Goy is actually Dirk the Ger. If you can't understand that, and most people don't, then it's all Dirk the Goy. And you know what? He plays Dungeons and Dragons. Who cares? I mean, it's that profound. I mean, the Gentile world, the word Gentile, Goy, Gentile. Okay, they think the Jewish people are cute, but when you realize what it really is, John the Ger and the God-fearer, and that John the Ger understands Dirk the Goy, and Dirk the Goy is really Dirk the Ger, there's a huge world of Ger, and it's reality. And therefore that reality has been searching to come back to Israel for 2,000 years, 2,500 years even, with the second temple. And the mentality of Arutz Sheva and everybody else, Voice of Israel, the world, there's a righteous Gentile, a nice Christian that knows that I'm Jewish and I have the truth. That is false. That is a false thing. It's a skewed point of view of the non-Jewish world. It's not even reality. It's not reality at all. We all of us Bolshevas know that when we were growing up, and Ari, you know it better than anybody, we had non-Jewish friends. We know they had souls. We know that they're human. We know that they matter. We know they have wisdom. We know we like them. But when we become religious, all of a sudden, the Torah doesn't cater to that kind of thinking, and it's a bit of what's that called? When your mind
trails off?
Cognitive dissonance. It's like we know that there's a true world out there, but the Torah that we have seems to disagree. So I call them righteous Gentiles now. I call them amazing people. I call them men and women of humanity. How about calling them just by their name? Bob, Dave, John, whatever their name is, Dirk, Trent, Demetrius, whatever it is. They're people. The Torah calls them Ger. Ger is a metaphor of humanity. The bottom line is, it's a diverse world. It is Adamic consciousness, right? It's Mashiach consciousness. And the Jewish people are much more diverse than Jews. Boker Tov. I'm not Jewish. I am a Kohen. And that is different. Just like the state of Texas has a contract, a treaty with America, it's not part of America. I am not part of Israel. I am part of the Kohen faction that is in a contract with Israel as the priestly status. I mean, it's a weird way of looking at it, but there really is Cohen, Levi, Israel, Ger, right? Men and women, right? They get married, but she's not you. You are different species. And literally, a contract is all that keeps you together. Your entire family is just a contract. And in case you don't believe that, look at the news. They're breaking up families and kids in foster care all the time. And you don't own your kids. Your kids are people. When you're a parent, you realize you're just here to help them out and make sure they can do the best for them, because it's a godly thing to do. But my kids, they're their own people, their own mazel. They have family. It's not mine. They're my in-laws. That's their blood family. And therefore there's issues that they have that I don't. But my job is to work with that. So if I just say, well, you're a cat, so you're my kid, you're a cat. Not true. Not true. There is blood there that's not mine. So don't just say, well, all Jews are the same. No, they're not. And we have to stop realizing that and thinking that we are the same. I'm not an Israelite. It's not my mazel. It's not my nature. It's not my wisdom. It's not my interest. My soul wants to pray and learn in the temple. The Israelite, not as much. It's not built for that. That means the Levite wants to play music and sing. Not my interest. The non-Jewish world, they want to be God-fearing openly. It's the Ger program. They want Israel. They want Torah. They want God. The Goy is just somebody who hasn't been turned on yet. And that's the Jewish Nachri Mumar as well. It's a very complex universe. And people, institutions like Aaron Sheva, they think they're doing the world a favor. And they are, okay, on a certain level. It's not, they could be doing worse in the world. But.
Well, also, some people that host shows were doing them a favor. Sometimes.
But there you go. That's it. That really is it. And it can't be that way. We have to put the truth out no matter what. How do you say it, Ari? You say we're the truth, we tell the truth. And how do you say that?
Well, the truth will set you free?
Also on your radio show, you say, we're here for the truth. And
oh, yeah, we're here to tell the truth. Right, yeah. Not all the stations want to tell the truth or the whole truth. That's what we do on Israel Sports News Radio.
Aaron Sheva, bless their heart. That's what they say in Texas. Bless their heart. And look, they're not, right. They do good work, okay? But the Ger is not interested in good work. They're not interested in bless their heart. The Ger don't want Jews saying bless their heart, okay? The Ger want recognized. They want heard. They want heard. They want the ability to speak. They want to speak the word of the Lord, right? They want to be Torah people. They want to speak and hear and be associated with authentic Torah. That's what Ari Lewis stands for. That's what this podcast represents. Bring the authentic Torah to the authentic people. What is a Ger? He's an authentic person, Jake Fry, right? Authentic people. It's authentic and don't be a jerk, right? That's what I learned from the Gerim. Be authentic, don't be a jerk. I mean, and what is a jerk? A jerk says that, hey, you're all the same. You people, you're all the same. No, that's a jerky thing to do. Each person is authentic. And that's what the authentic Torah is, and it has to go out. I mean, that's what King Solomon is teaching in Mishlei and in Koheles. It's the teachings of King David. Why are we not learning King David? Why are people not learning Psalms? Go through Psalms in the Mikras Gedolos. It'll blow your mind. Go learn Mishlei with the commentary of the Gra. It'll blow your mind. Go learn Isaiah and understand what the Ger is with the commentaries. It'll blow your mind. Go learn the third temple in Ezekiel. It'll blow your mind. Go learn the prophecies of Mashiach and Daniel. It'll blow your mind. Go read the book of Hosea just because no one does. It'll blow your mind. Go read the book of Joshua. Yeah, the book that comes after Deuteronomy. It'll blow your mind. It's okay to learn Genesis. That's right. It's okay to learn about Adam and the Gan Eden. Why? Because it'll blow your mind. The Torah is mind-blowing, so why not learn it? Period.
Now, what's funny is, since you're on here, I want you to tell the audience a funny story. I feel like 6 months ago, I believe we had you on talk about the book, The World of the Ger, and Arut Sheva put in something that was really off with the description about if, you know what I'm talking about. Tell that story if you think that's kind of really encompasses everything we're talking about.
You ever heard Jackie Mason? I never
sure,
hated
yeah.
it.
That's a good impression.
They, bless his heart. Bless his heart. They, let's just say it was a nice little intimate hint to the Christian listener, and one that we did not ever imply, hint at, say, intend on. It was non-existent. I think it was something that we accept. I think we said that Ger could be a Christian, something along those lines.
Well, no, he could worship idols. And I get, for the audience, a little behind the scenes stuff. I get a text from Rabbi Katz, like, I don't know, 3 a.m. or something, like, Ari, you got to change the scripture right away. This is a disaster. I'm like, whoa, what happened? And I look at the website. I'm like, that's not the description I sent. That's not what we meant. That's the total opposite of what we meant. And you had a lot of feedback from your listeners saying, wait, we can worship idols now? Well, what does that mean? But you think that was kind of something a little deeper, not just an idiotic mistake, they don't have respect.
That's it. It was like, who cares, right? And who cares? It's not a who cares, right? You can't do that. In this whole message of Ger is don't say who cares, right? Ger Toshav, the Rambam says Yovel, and David Katz says something different. Who cares? No. You got to say it right, do it right. That is the integrity of the message. That's the word, sorry. The integrity of the message is ger. And the lack of integrity, and it's very yeshivish. It's like, here, here's a little impression for you, Ari. It's like, you're giving the Rav is like this on the Shabbos Drosha. So the Rambam tied is like Rashi, that if we find they could make a pshat in a day, it could be mamashos to deraisa aval. Chetzi neza knas rishus rabim, l'choymer with Moshe Paskins verkehrt pshat. And the guy in the crowd says, the bull boss says, Rav, I got a question. He says, yeah, go ahead, Shlomi. What's doing? How's Bracha doing? Oh, she's good, thank you. Shleich. Didn't the Rav teach us that the Rambam says that it could be the that we could actually go into a church, if we have to, if I don't want to, but if it was like my brother, he married a non-Jewish woman, and the kids, they have like these parties there, and they want me to go. I don't want to go, but what do? Can I go? Look, what, I can't tell you what to do. So I mean, look, a Yid in Gullus, what can you do? Okay, fight in Shas. Okay, the Rambam tied is like Rav Moshe. All right, so I mean that is like Yeshivish 101. And the bottom line is, as cute and funny as it is, it's lo beseder when it comes to the Ger message. Those kind of cute little Yeshivish Zachen, it's good for, I never heard of that, but we have to strengthen the integrity to get the message out, because otherwise familiarity breeds contempt, and that's what that thing with Erev Sheva was, that little slight. It's the good goyim are listening, who really cares? The whole thing is treif. That thinking is treif. It's Gullus, it's Europe, it's the shtetl. Look, yeshiva shtick is funny as all could be, but when it gets into the Torah realm, it becomes serious, and it's lo beseder. We have to make the message in integrity and authentic, because that's what the Ger wants. Right? They might be able to laugh at the Christian bashing, but when it comes onto them, bless their heart, it's not funny anymore. And we can't afford to put jokes on the expense of them. And you'll say, well, you're making fun of the rabbis. Look, yeshivish is funny. I mean, it's a Jewish thing, and everyone knows. Everyone knows yeshivish is a thing. But even the rabbi giving the drasha, deep down he knows that he has to clean it up. We all know we have to clean it up. And the bottom line is, somebody has to stand up and say, look, it's time to clean it up. We're married, okay? We're married to God. We're married to each other. We're married to our fellow man. Jew and Ger are married. It's the tikkun of Adam and Eve. And the bottom line is, even though we like to bring our schlepper friends over around the precincts of our respectable one, it's not beseder, right? So we might be able to say, Mamish chayra, never heard of that. But when it comes into the open forum, where it's like the sanctity of marriage, so to speak, we have to clean up our act and have respect and decency, and that really is where Tikkun Olam goes. We're no longer teaching the schmaltz in the shtetl, where it's the world stage, or light to nations, and we have to be that way now. It's that simple.
And by the way, for the record, just want to make it crystal clear, if anyone's confused, we do not believe that you could be a Ger Toshav or anything like that and worship idols. I just want to make that crystal clear. So, because I know there was some confusion that came out 6 months ago. Just to state my belief and Rabbi Katz's belief. I speak on your behalf, I believe, when I say that.
I never heard of that.
All right, a few more minutes. Rabbi David Katz. Again, you listen to the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Rabbi Katz, of course, is the co-author of the book, The World of the Ger. So Rabbi Katz, is again the theme. We're talking about these radio stations going out of business. Voice of Israel is already out. What will happen in the future? Happen forwardly, because there is a need. The Ger they want to know what's going on, and they turn to Israel all the time. Even more maybe than some Jews do sometimes. They turn to us. They want to know what to do. What's going to happen going forward in the future?
I think the message is going to take hold. I'll tell you what the danger is. The danger is this is classic. What happened in Sinai? We got married with God, right? And then what did God do? He said, don't mess up, we're going to get a divorce. What happened? We got a divorce. What happened then? Shira Shirim is basically the story of that God will take back his bride. Well, the World of the Ger came out and we got married, right? The Jew married the Ger, and I'll tell you where we're at right now in real time, and it freaks me out. We are at the stage of threatening divorce. And not because things are bad. Don't get me wrong. Things are great. But it's like, you know how when I mean, Ari Lewis, you know this, right? When things are going great in your life, what happens next?
So, sometimes things
That's
go
right.
not so great.
And we're loving the romance. We're on the honeymoon. But when the honeymoon's over, look out. And we want to avoid that pitfall, right? We have to. All right. We are on a great honeymoon right now. I'm telling you, I was in Texas. The honeymoon is fantastic. It's the view and Hawaii and the beach and the waves and the greenery. Okay? Nobody complains of the honeymoon. Or it's like a birthright trip to Israel. It goes amazing. And then you say, hey, I love Israel. I want to move to Israel. Oh, are you in for a Boker Tov? You are in for a Boker Tov. And I don't want Boker Tov. I really don't. And we don't deserve a Boker Tov. We deserve to have a good life in the Messianic era. So all I'm saying is, everyone out there, understand the marriage happened and the honeymoon is amazing. But if you want this thing to last and you want it to be continued and you want to repair the past, we must begin to take it seriously and work on ourselves. Because that's what Ger is ultimately. It is working on yourself and it is growing. It's pushing borders and challenging the mind, digging out the Torah, forever searching for God. It is the path to God, the Derech Hashem. And in kind of a vulgar way, it is the path to the righteous Gentile. I hate to say it that way, but it's a known book, Rabbi Chaim Korfin. Now it's the word of the Ger, but the bottom line is it always was the word of the Ger. We just didn't know it back then. Bottom line is we cannot afford to fall. Right? Every married couple falls. Every relationship falls. Everything that is the nature of the world. It happened in Sinai. It is the world. Right? It is, Jewish karma per se. It's mazel. And I'm saying we need to repair it. We need to. This is like Kol Torah Vilna Gaon 101. When holiness and purity come together, a Molech is lurking in the bushes. That's how it is. And until that's defeated, then we never get to the third temple. The Vilna Gaon says that's what the definition of the Jerusalem above is when there is no more a Molech. That's how we connect to that source. And that's what we're trying to do. We're tired of a Molech. So I urge everybody, from what I'm seeing, this is how to do it. Right? It's the Torah, it's authentic, it's all these things. We cannot afford to fall victim to a Molech. And that's the Yetzer Hara, it's the Samech Mem, it's Ayin Hara, all those things that everybody wants to put into this. We have to stop it. We have to grow up. We have to appreciate the marriage and return, like Adam, to the garden, to work it and to guard it and to be a Kiddush Hashem in the eyes of God.
All right, last question we have for you. I want to know if you think the Ger movement has a tie-in with potential end of the world type of thing. I mean, let's say like it is. The Iran vote apparently is next week. I mean, they keep talking about moving it, but there's one opinion that says it's going to be on Rosh Hashanah. I mean, it's not a good situation. So is this kind of tying in? Because I know you mentioned before that you have to have that for Mashiach to come. The Ger Toshav has to be in place. So I want to know if the Ger movement ties into the finality, the end of days, if you will.
All the prophecies are happening, but I'll say it like this. In 2006, the Hezbollah war, the Zohar was talking about that year, for those that remember. And there's a guy who was a very level-headed guy that he passed on since then, but a very big mentor in my life. And he said, everyone said, Rabbi Silver, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? He said, look, I'm not a prophet, but I will tell you, of all the prophecies where you don't have to stretch your mind today to understand what's going on. 10, 15 years ago, you would have had to stretch your mind, he said. Gog maybe is this one, and who's Iran? Well, Korea's kind of like, he said, today it's the players are the players. So today, we're even more into our character than then. The only way it's not now is if there's more definition to the character to come. And I find that hard to believe because I think we're very much in character. Israel, Ishmael, Esav. If it's not, then there's more definition to come. That's all I can say.
All right, I like that. Short and sweet, to the point. All right, another episode of the Side Hour here on Israel Sports. Well, only in a good way. Well, sweet usually is good. So, sweet as sugar, as they say. Another episode here of the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports News Radio. My guest has been Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book, The World of the Ger. You can purchase that book on gergear.com and also check out the rabbi's website, somazal.com. And if you'd like to email me, that's messiahhour@gmail.com, as I mentioned before. And if you want to send a donation, you can do so through my PayPal account. That is israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Again, israelsportsradio@yahoo.com, not Israel Sports and News Radio. That's the website. Sorry for the difference in PayPal and website. We will try to fix that shortly. Rabbi, thank you for being on the program today. Great job as always.
Thank you, Ari. It's a pleasure to be with you and your listeners.
Indeed. Everyone out there, thank you for listening. Stay safe. Try to write your congressman. Do what you can in the last hour, last minute. Anything can happen. I don't think it's going to change, but try anyway.
Ari
You
Lewis,
never know.
I'm going to make
Yes.
a commercial for you.
Okay,
Everybody
go ahead.
listening, you need to listen up real good. Ari Lewis is a good man. And for this show to continue, because he's a humble man and a truthful man, we're raising money to get him a new USB microphone. We want the product to be good. We want this syndicated. We want Ari Lewis on billboards all around the globe. So hear ye. To Ari's PayPal, please get the guy a microphone. Okay, it's like $100. Even if you want to spend $10,000 on one, he won't say no. But get the guy a microphone. He's a public service guy. He's doing a great thing. I love coming on the Ari Lewis show, and I know you guys like it too. He's not going to ask me for it because that's just who he is. But he's making do with what he has, and he's awesome. And let's get the show on the road. If we're going to get the podcast, redeem the Torah, let's hook up Ari Lewis, and I'll be the first one to commit $20 to that account. I wish I could give more, and I probably will give more. I'm not going to say the things, but come on, everybody, we're going to get the guy a microphone, and I want to hear technically savvy things coming out of this camp, because this guy has the power and brains and motivation and wisdom to make it happen, and I am determined to see that dream come to its full conclusion. Amen.
Wow, I'll be to that. Wow, it can't really get much better than that. Great commercial. Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate that. Very, very nice to say. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, this has been another episode of the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the day, and stay safe, friends. Please stay safe. Thank you so much.